social science and physical sciences. Why? What is the necessity? Is it essential? Yes. You take an example of living example, Corona. Corona disease is the world epidemic disease. With disease, everybody is dreading like anything. For your glittering eyes, eventually you are observing that temples and church mosques were closed and saints are not appearing. And పూజారులు అంతా కూడా జారిపోయినారు. Only science is the truth. Being a science student, you are very courageous and powerful in era of global. So this is the live example. But in the tradition event, in education system, what we are teaching, teacher and versus student, teaching and learning. The teacher is a predominant and big boss himself. He knows very well. He will thinking, presuming, but he do not know anything. The students are simply observing and simply obeying, simply sitting idle. But teacher domination central spread is there as if he is the boss of big boss in Telugu or something. But student is only pakka, sincerely observing and maintaining some extent discipline also. It can be curbed because the education system should be removed or removal of domination teacher, because being a teacher, sometimes he may wrong also in teaching. He has to correct it. So ultimately, child-centered education should be inevitable in global situation. So at this juncture, 1950-1980 scenario is there. In 1950-1980 scenario, we have to take some example of previous traditional 1813, that is the milestone of Sir Charles has given, and 1857 Mumbai, Chennai, Calcutta universities were introduced the English medium with science. And 1940 Sargent, after war, Sargent Commission was the better achievement for particularly India, and they have introduced science as the core subject. And 1949, first meeting conducted under the leadership of Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, chairman. Universities education system has introduced science is the best and first and compulsory education. And 1953, Dr. Lakshmana Swamy Mudaliar Commission as the chairman. He has general science and mathematics compulsorily introduced for Indian culture of the education policies. In 1956, Tara Devi at Simla, there under the chairmanship of at summer, that meeting was conducted, syllabus and appropriate and approaches, textbooks, exams, etc. In the August 1961, and Parliamentary Commission was approved with effect from 1962. But unfortunately, universities and the syllabuses planning mission was approved by the USSR on 3rd December 1963. 10th March 1964 with implementation has recommended for entire world. But 2005 NCF, child-centered education is essential. So pedagogical shift is the must. NCERT also, NCERT 1961 lesson plans and textbooks, TLM supplied and made ready also. But 1964 to 66, Dr. Kothari Commission is supplied 10+2, that is SSC and intermediate or multipurpose high school. 1975 NCERT supplied TBs and TLM and syllabuses, but great criticism by the parents and eminent personalities of entire global. To remove of that situation in India, 1977, Sri Ishwari Bai Patel reviewed that defaults. In the 1986 NEP, national education policy. For 10 years, Pakka, it should be implemented. Pythagoras, for easy way, simplicity, education system derived with so many scientists, they rendered their good services for entire global. In this way, one of the most personality known as Jerome Bruner. This is the one of the approach how to teach the science and strategies what should be maintained. He has bitterly exposed to the entire world. This approach is better than other. He is a cognitive psychologist. He did law from the university, but all subjects he touched. What is his main motto? He born in New York. Date of birth is October 1, 1915, and death is the June 5, 2016. He is the blind scientist, and then 100 years, he lived for 100 years. In the year 1961, he has given the discovery of learning system with a simple situations. That is the Bonanza. The training method, he has divided into three parts. One is enacting. It can be added by the imitation or mimicry by the teacher or the students. And then second one is the icon. And third one is the symbolic. His main motto, only to teach the playway technique, discipline. That should be the main methodology he adopted. How to teach, how to learn. The training should be given on the basis of easy conceptual method. Enacting and also icon and symbolic and with a playway technique, discipline. We are on parasite of this Jerome Bruner, which was approach has given for the students of this thing. And another scientist name is who rendered wonderful service for the entire world, David Paul and Jean Asubel. He born at New York. Date of birth is October 25, 1918. Date of death is the July 9, 2018. He has given present TPK. TPK means you might be knowing that traditional previous knowledge, what he is having in the brain before entering into the class. Something is the brain having some knowledge. That is the TPK. Raw material are raw data, and then theories, and then propositions, and conceptual and facts. He has given the wonderful first person meaningful education system adopted to your parasite on this second man Asubeli, and he did from Columbia University in education PhD. The addiction of alcohol is the Pakka, and even now the addiction situation as the father of the world. He has given wonderful brain, what it is doing, what it is achieving, what it is having in brain. Advanced organizer, he has shown his attitude to the public. And he has given wonderful situations, accuracy he wanted to give. For instance, example, Everest mountain is the bigger or higher than Gauri Shankar. Now if you take an example, the corona, Cuba and Vietnam is the less percentage out of danger of corona diseases, etc., COVID-19. But whereas Italy and China, US, one by one, China is the dominating, and then US is the dominating, and China is slowly coming down. The wonderful world worries dreading so much about the US. US is the dominating, bigger, almost all number one country, dictating the terms, but now he is facing the troublesome. Even our India getting some top of the, appreciations by the other countries, particularly 71 countries, they are supplying the SEQ. Even now India, they are controlling the corona. Okay, this is the only education system is the experimental and teacher exploring by the knowledge. But experimental is the by the teacher and students will be the observing. Now it has been changed, pedagogical shift. The students has to participate how to conduct the experimental, how to observation, how to mixing the chemicals, etc. for physical sciences. So simplicity, chronic zeal should be introduced. This Asubeli. Next is the Jean William Piaget. That spelling is Pigot otherwise, but the entire world is calling as Jean William Piaget. The date of birth is August 19, 1996 and date of birth is September 16, 1980. He born at Scotland, Switzerland, scientist Geneva. Particularly, he did child psychology for 50 years. And then also is the number one within 21 years he has done his PhD and HOD for that department of that Greenwich University. About the knowledge imparting and epistemology, how to child learn the science and development and the abilities and skills cognitively. He has done 4 stages. One is sensory motor 0 to 2 years. And second one is pre-operational 2 to 7 years. Third one is the concrete 7 to 11 years. Fourth is a formal 11 to 15 years. For instance, one more example for sensory motor 0 to 2 years. Example, you take and cradle. That child never forget. What is the steps will have the cradle? Here 4. Here are many, but he can't spell out. We remove from 8 to 4, he can't question. Strips are there, he can play with that cradle. Second one is pre-operational. Here, he can identify parents, Amma, Nana, mother, father, brother, Nani. He will explain the parts of the body, nose, teeth, hair. But sometimes he will be the Sidhu. He never listen. Third one is the concrete 7 to 11 years. Here, self-thinking will be there. Time, place, food material, energy, essential. The fourth is the formal 11 to 15 years. Concrete are here also sometimes. Ravi, Raghu, Raju. Example, if you take in the classroom, you make them stand. If we put a question to them, who is the taller? He will say, in absence, he can't say. But whereas here, Pakka, fourth formal, he can identify the time, house, he can think, solo, classify of animals, plants, and recognition of relatives, recognition of vehicles, recognition of books. Almost all he will become Pakka formal. Even he can dictate and criticize the faults and appreciate. Shiaji means central theme is should be appreciated. What mind is doing? No, I don't want. What mind or brain is doing, but changes gradually arises, derives from function. What is functioning? Why it is functioning? How it is functioning? That should be created by the solo of the formal students up to 15 years. Love, yes, why God sky? In simple, why God sky? That is a question itself having some meaning. Why God sky? Already, why means for this purpose. God already reached and enriched, and sky. Up to sky, there is no limitation for education imparting system. He dead with tuberculosis disease at the age of 30 years, 37 years only, born at November 17, 1896, and death is the June 11, 1934. Buddhism he has taken belongs to the USSR, law faculty, and Moscow University rendered. He is the perfect man, socio and cultural, because Buddhism is their adoption. So socio-cultural and imitation important and play their top role, aided to unaided, who need the services for getting the education system. He has given alarm for wonderful education for the weaker sections, because in classroom, all will not be a topmost students of A grade. A, B, C, D will be there. All should be account for equalization should be maintained so that weaker section should be come up. In that way, he has rendered his service because the curve, this is the level actual development is there, and the zone proximal development is there, potential development is there from abstract to specific, simple to chronic. In this way, he has given wonderful education system. In 1962, USSR has given a strong field station for his wonderful revolution evaluation education system, a bonanza for the entire classrooms, leisure period, and human body and animal classifications. He has given the easy way to identify, to discuss, to argument. This is the 1950 to 1980 about this approach and strategies for learning of physical and biological sciences, my dear students. Question may come, 1950 to 1980 scenario, you have to write up to this Vaigat sky. This is over for your kind information. And then 1980 post scenario, that is the pre-scenario. This is the post scenario. This is many researchers for this 1980 scenario. He has done wonderful services for rendered for the beautiful. Main conceptual is teaching to achieve objective based. Only teaching is not by the success of by teaching by the teacher and learning by the students only. The main conceptual is Pakka plans and process. Because Pakka plan is there and process is there, wonderful success will be Pakka. If half-hearted we planned, half-hearted we processed, that will not give 100% result. He has given this post scenario, has given the plans and process situation. Plans and process, teaching versus student. Concentrate by the students and concentrate to teach the lesson by the teacher. But student, in what extent he has to grasp, what extent he want to take, what extent still well-developed and all-round development student is there. Still he is needed to add the TPK to fresh useful knowledge in era for his brain. Always learner will think as a solo. What extent he has to strive still to get the new era, new education policy system. How to teach, why teach, what teach, when teach, what purpose it can be teach. 1980 scenario is the topmost because he has taken this entire 1984 scenario, he rendered a wonderful contribution by the 1982 owner, scientist, educationist, prominent personality of world, and then driver, not our car driver or something. His name is driver, 1994, 1984 Nowak. They have given a epistemological education policies for the read in 1994. Always learner should be centered. Pedagogical shift, he should be around the surrounding of the learner. Learner, he has to, with a zeal, enthusiastically, he has to participate to grasp the knowledge which can be useful for his solo life or super good life leading kosam idi avasaram kavalani chusukuntavu. Because he wanted to think as an independent, selfly, zeal should be created, interest should be created, subject knowledge. Here, teacher role is central aspect. Of course, he should be a friendly man. He has to talented, he has to tactful and strategical, and approach should be clear cut, appropriate, and scientific attitude should be maintained, and then stability maintained, and ability should be maintained. He should be ability. He has to transmit the education policies. He would like to transmit to the next generation. Teacher will do some fault here, entire project will be collapsed. If teacher is pakka, a planned man, teachers would be students will be the remember his ideology in brain to not to attempt the worst situation. Always he will be in a positive thinking, positive approach. All techniques should be perfectly cemented, coated. Number one is subject knowledge should not be deviated, and then teaching skills always should be maintained. Learner self-thinking should be created in the students. There is no starch. How can you prepare the roti? If starch is there, you can make paratha, roti or puri, whatever you want. ఉత్సాహంగా ఉండాలి అంటే ప్రోత్సాహం కావాలి. He should be enthusiastically enlightened చేయాలంటే teacher role should be the main role. A better teacher will be worshipable. He has to do some justice. Without goal, teaching is worst. The teaching, it should be reached, aims and goal achievable. Then only it can be useful. If there is no education, sarcastic animal equal అని అంటారు చూడండి, వింతలేని పశువులాగా అని అంటారు. టీచర్ అయిన తర్వాత ది స్టూడెంట్స్ అండ్ టీచర్స్, దే షుడ్ బి మెయింటైన్ కార్డియల్ రిలేషన్ అండ్ ఫ్రెండ్లీ, no domination.